Well, March Madness has come and gone, and let me tell you, this year's tournament definitely lived up to the hype and more. We saw incredible finishes, all-time March Madness moments, and a lot of top prospects solidify themselves as top prospects. And that brings us to today's video, actually. Today, we will be putting out another mock draft installment, as I do once every month leading up to the main event, to keep up with how things are trending in the draft world, and doing so right after March Madness is the perfect time to bring it back. March Madness definitely impacted how these players are viewed, both good and bad, and we'll get into all of this here. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but I'd also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. Starting with the number 1 pick in the draft, the Washington Wizards select Darryn Peterson from Kansas. The way the lottery plays out will heavily affect who gets taken number 1 overall this year, with Washington currently being the team with the worst record in the NBA. If they were to be awarded the top pick, I do think Peterson is the guy that not only provides the most upside for them, but also who fits the best with the direction that they're headed. The Wizards just traded for both Trae Young and Anthony Davis, and seem to be gearing up to make a push out of the basement of the Eastern Conference standings next season. They also have Alex Sarr developing nicely in their front court, so I see Peterson as a perfect fit to slot in next to Trae Young in the backcourt as a much bigger guard that can handle tougher defensive matchups, and all year at Kansas he has shown off elite off-ball movement to find space and get his shot off that would pair excellently with Trae's playmaking skills. Plus, if the Wizards decide not to move forward with Trae Young long-term, then Peterson could slide into more of a lead guard role and run the show himself, so it's a proposition the Wizards come away favorably in both ways. Next, with the second pick, the Brooklyn Nets select Dybantsa from BYU. The Nets will be taking the best player available no matter where they end up picking, so in this spot, they'll eye up Dybantsa and not think twice about it. Dybantsa led the entire country in scoring this season, and he went down swinging in March Madness, dropping 35 points and 10 rebounds in his final game of the year. He's genuinely capable of carrying an offense if need be, as a 6'9" shot creator with elite footwork, incredible shot making skills in the mid-range, and relentless finishing ability at the rim. His floor is being a 20-point per game scorer, and his ceiling is winning scoring titles. That's truly how talented Dybantsa is when it comes to putting the ball in the basket. The one thing he will need to continue to work on improving is his three-point shot, and overall he just needs to embrace that part of his game more in general by upping the amount of attempts per game from deep that he takes to truly be an elite 3-level scorer, but regardless, it's by no means a weakness. Next, with the third pick, the Indiana Pacers select Cameron Boozer from Duke. Boozer has become a bit polarizing as a prospect over the last few weeks after his showing in March Madness, despite having objectively good games overall. Boozer is a bully in the paint, out-muscling pretty much every defender teams try to throw at him. He gets to the rim with ease. He has great anticipation skills on the glass and a solid motor for going after 50-50 balls, and he's just a really smart player who lets the game come to him, instead of going out of his way to try to do too much. The concern comes from the worry that his skill set won't quite translate to the NBA game, as someone who relies heavily on post play and bully ball in an era of NBA basketball that's all about pace and space. I think those worries do get overblown, largely because Boozer is also a really good shooter, hitting 39% of his threes, and he's a pretty impressive passer for a big man who dished out 4 assists per game this season, so he's far from being a one-trick pony, and even though the Pacers are already stacked at the power forward spot, it would be foolish to pass on clear talent this early in the draft in favor of fit. Next, with the fourth pick, the Sacramento Kings select Caleb Wilson from North Carolina. Caleb Wilson's season ended early due to injury, unfortunately, but before that, all season long, he was forcing his way into the conversation of making the top of this draft be a quote-unquote top 3 to being a top 4. Wilson is a freak athlete who loves to grab rebounds and push the pace in transition as a strong ball handler for his size and position, and once he gets anywhere near the rim, he's going to try to punch punch one on a defender's head. He dunked the ball more than anybody else this season, and that's no fluke. He's a legit force when it comes to attacking the basket. Wilson also averaged about 20 points and 9 rebounds per game this year, being one of the most productive players in the country, so the notion that he is much more raw than the other top prospects this season is not really based in reality. He's not very much of a shooter at the moment, but he made a respectable percentage of his free throws, so all hope is not lost for his jumper, and for a Sacramento team in need of a true pillar to build around, he could be a potential all-star to do that with still. Next, with the 5th pick, the Utah Jazz select Darius Acuff Jr. from Arkansas. This is the first pick where a team has to make a really tough decision with the true top tier of talent all off the board. Acuff offensively absolutely belongs in the conversations with the other top players in this year's draft. The issue is that he's also one of the worst players on the defensive side of the ball that we've seen in a while. The tape shows that he just does not work hard on defense. The impact metrics back that idea up that he's a bit of a liability in that regard, but I'll be damned if I said I wasn't still fully bought into him as an NBA player because of how incredible he is on offense. I really can't see a world where Acuff isn't at least a 20-point scorer in his prime, who could also be in the mix for the assist title in that time. He's a masterful on-ball operator with a crisp handle, shiftiness, footwork, body control, and touch that makes him a threat from anywhere on the floor. He scored 24, 36, and then 28 points in his 3 March Madness outings, proving to be unguardable no matter the matchup. And for a Jazz team with a very strong front court next season and a player in Keontae George who's probably more of a 2-guard than a point guard anyway, Acuff could be the one that unlocks this offense to its fullest. Next, with the 6th pick, the Dallas Mavericks select Keaton Wagler from Illinois. Wagler's continuing to prove that he's just a flat-out winner, being the best player on an Illinois team that made an incredible run through this tournament. He's come out of nowhere, starting the year not really on draft radars, and is now undeniably one of the best guards in the country. He is a masterful operator of the pick and roll with tremendous feel and decision-making skills. He's a smooth operator maneuvering around the court and getting to his spots with ease. He's a tough shot maker, and he's highly efficient, averaging 18 points per game this season while shooting 41% from 3. Dallas have Cooper Flagg as their pillar right now, and Wagler could come in and be a major boost to their backcourt, especially because Flagg didn't exactly ace the experiment of when he was used as a point forward. Wagler may not have the high-end athleticism that teams typically drool over, but I don't really think it's needed in today's NBA, when some of the biggest stars in the sport are 2 feet on the ground below the basket operators that prioritize skill over explosion. Next, with the 7th pick, the Atlanta Hawks select Kingston Flemings from Houston. The Hawks are prioritizing building a defensive identity and team-oriented basketball after having traded away Trae Young, and coming from the Houston system, Flemings would be a perfect fit for their new structure. Flemings is one of the best point-of-attack defenders in the draft, and putting that next to Dyson Daniels in the same backcourt, when Daniels is one of the best perimeter defenders in the entire NBA right now, would give teams nightmares for all 48 minutes. Flemings is also ridiculously quick-twitched, with one of the best attributes in his game being his ability to start and stop on a dime and change speeds like it's nothing, which allows him to get to a nice pull-up jumper regularly. Flemings is a reliable floor general type of player with strong playmaking instincts at the point guard position, and is willing to do the dirty work to help his team win games. He's not a very high-volume 3-point shooter at the moment, but he does make them at a good clip when he takes them, so I think the Hawks should be all over him here. Next, with the 8th pick, the Memphis Grizzlies select Labaron Philon Jr. from Alabama. Philon is actually the first non-freshman off the board today, and he's someone who benefited greatly from returning to school for a second season. Philon has improved practically every part of his game across the board this year, and was also one of the most productive players in the entire country, averaging 22 points and 5 assists per game. He was also incredibly efficient, shooting 50% from the field and 40% from 3, which for a point guard really caught my eye. Philon's biggest growth came with his shooting as someone where it just clicked for him this year. He doesn't hesitate at all once he gets a bit of space, with a quick release, both off the dribble and off the catch, and a lethal conversion rate that buries defenders that try to sag off. to cut off his drive. The reason why this is so crucial is because he's also one of the quickest players in the draft that can blow by most defenders with ease, and once he gets into the paint, he is a master of deceleration and staying under control to get a good shot off. The Grizzlies may look to trade Ja Morant away this offseason, which means a rebuild is coming, and Morant's replacement could be immediately found right here. Next, with the 9th pick, the Chicago Bulls select Nate Ament from Tennessee. The Bulls have a million guards on their roster right now anyway, so it's ideal that Ament is still on the board here for them to bolster their front court with. The Nate Ament experiment this season was a roller coaster ride of highs and lows, which most recently featured a 0-point game in his first game of March Madness, which was immediately followed by 2 solid outings of 16 and then 18 points. He's a 6'10" player with good feel for shot making and intriguing creation skills, but he's not the quickest, nor is he the most athletic player, and the inconsistency makes him one of the more boom-or-bust talents this year. He's not a black hole type of scorer, he moves well without the ball, and he lets looks come to him naturally, but whoever drafts him needs to hope that the shooting inconsistencies can be cleaned up, because his efficiency numbers admittedly weren't that great this season. Next, with the 10th pick, the Milwaukee Bucks select Mikel Brown Jr. from Louisville. Brown's season was marred by injury this year, which is a shame because he really seemed to be finding a groove down the stretch before his back injury forced him to miss March Madness. He rattled off a stretch where he dropped 45 points, then 29 points, and then 29 points again, back to back to back. And the upside of him being a difference maker with the ability to go off and take over a game like that still has him locked in as lottery talent. Where hesitancy will arise will be the fact that his lows this season were pretty low, and overall the shot making was not great as he made just 41% of his shots and 34% of his threes on the year, plus when you factor in the back injury, it's something to be a bit wary of. The Bucks may still be about to rebuild with a Giannis Antetokounmpo trade potentially looming, and in the event that it does come into fruition, they need upside to swing on, and Mikel Brown Jr. actually began this year looked at as a top 5 pick before everything that I just discussed knocked him down a peg, so the gamble of him getting healthy and rediscovering that kind of form would be the hope here for Milwaukee. Next, with the 11th pick, the Golden State Warriors select Koa Peat from Arizona. Peat has been massive to the success of Arizona as they made an incredible run through the tournament of their own. Peat may not have a high ceiling as much as others in this range, but he has the non-stop work ethic and motor to make a winning impact regardless. Arizona just wasn't the same team in the stretch that he was out injured for, and when he's available, he's like a bull in a china shop putting pressure on the rim. He's a big, strong forward that succeeds through brute force and a knack for being in the right place at the right time, but he's also a useful passer who averaged about 3 assists per game, and most importantly, he defends. Warriors coach Steve Kerr has a history of struggling to trust young players that don't give it 100% on defense, and that is just not a concern at all with Koa Peat. Next, with the 12th pick, the Oklahoma City Thunder, who own the Clippers pick, select Yaxel Lendeborg from Michigan. Lendeborg is the oldest prospect in the lottery right now as a 23-year-old, but he's someone with an NBA-ready game, and for the defending champions, who are once again the 1 seed in the Western Conference, that is what they will likely be targeting with this pick. He's a very versatile forward who rebounds well, spaces the floor as a spot-up shooter, makes good reads, and keeps the ball moving, and he defends at a high level. He also is someone who played some of his best basketball in the tournament, showing off that the bright lights don't faze him, which is necessary when you're playing for a championship contender. Next, with the 13th pick, the Miami Heat select Brayden Burries from Arizona. Burries doesn't have the flashiest game in the world, but he's got plenty of substance, and his production speaks for itself. He's been Arizona's leading scorer this season, averaging 16 points per game, shooting 50% from the field, and 40% from 3, and that level of efficiency and shot making comes as a result of just being very fundamentally sound and well-rounded as a player. He's got the quickness to get by his defender, he's an aggressive driver, he has a great pull-up mid-range jumper, and he's yet another high IQ two-way guard that you struggle to see failing at the next level, and Heat coach Erik Spoelstra has a knack for getting the most out of these types of players. And finally, with the last pick in the lottery, the Memphis Grizzlies, who own the Magic's pick, select Hans Steinbach from Washington. With the Grizzlies potentially getting 2 lottery picks this year and having used their first one on a point guard earlier here, they'll add some big man depth, who is arguably the best rebounder in the draft in Steinbach. He's another player with undeniable production, averaging 19 points and 10 rebounds per game, and he's a highly skilled paint scorer with soft touch and a bevy of post moves to beat his man with. But questions about his game and whether they can translate to the NBA will be somewhat justified. I'm always willing to bank on skill panning out, but he's not the quickest big man in the world, which does limit his defensive upside, and he does need to extend his shooting range too. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below who impressed you the most in March Madness. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.